Why, hello there, novelists, game designers, game masters, and players alike. Shams Nelson here from Pen and Blade. In today's episode of the Kobold's Guide to World Building, and the second essay in this book, in the second video, we're going to be talking about the four different categories of world building as laid out in the essay called, where is it here? Different Kinds of World Building by Monte Cook. And this is in the book, The Kobold Guide to World Building. So, there are basically, like I stated in the beginning, four different people who might build a game world, at least according to this article, and it seems pretty good article, pretty comprehensive. The first one is that they name is a novelist. The second is a game designer, someone who's building a campaign setting for a game that's either going to be sold or like he's not playing it directly, but he's making it for other people. Then there's the game master who's running their own game. And then there's an interesting idea that we'll get to at the end about player-built world building or player world building. All right, so let's start with the novelist. The novelist, he points out that this is where you need the least information and history and lore and stuff about your whole world. Because with a novel, the people who are experiencing the novel are only going to glimpse what you show them. And they only need to know enough to push the story along. In fact, he goes ahead, Monte Cook goes ahead and claims that it's a waste to do a whole bunch of world building because the characters aren't even going to see it. And he points out that the Silmarillion, which a lot of people will be like, well, Lord of the Rings has so much world building. Okay, well, first off, Tolkien is an alien. But also, the Silmarillion was not intended to be published and viewed. That was his own information so that he could write the book, and because I guess he just likes doing it. So that's the other point. If you just like world building and making a crazy background for your novel, then go ahead and do it. But from a more professional perspective, it's kind of a waste of time, especially if you're doing it for commercial reasons. You're going to sell the book versus you're just going to, I don't know, you're just having fun. All right, let's move on because that's probably the least relevant for my audience, or for me at least. The second one's the most relevant for me personally. I'm working on this game, this tabletop RPG system called World of Chibu, which is what kind of sparked me to get this book and start the series, because I'm building a campaign setting. And so, world building for a game as a game designer, all right? This means that you gotta create a world that doesn't have just one story, but it has like tons of stories, all right? And the way that he suggests to do this, which I really liked, was steep the GMs in flavor. I'm quoting now. Steep the GMs in flavor and concepts underpinning the world to help them create their own details. And he says this is the give a man a fish or teach a man to fish. You give him an adventure, he's got an adventure, he's gonna eat it, it's gonna taste good, but that's it. The next day he's not gonna have any more adventures. But if you give a man or woman the zone or whatever, you give them the tools, the setting, and so they can make their own adventures, the elements, I think that's the word I'm looking for. If you give them the elements of adventure and then let them put it together how they want and cook it up their own way, then they can eat every day for the rest of their lives, man. So, and then he goes on to say, empowering GMs to create their own as well. It says, I'm still giving lots of detail, but then empowering GMs to create their own as well by giving them an idea of what things they could create and what would or wouldn't be appropriate for the setting. All right? So you're kind of giving guidelines. You're saying, here are some constraints to work within, now go crazy. And it's interesting because I saw this podcast, an unrelated, not podcast, it was a video interview, it's on YouTube, of Ross Draws, and he was talking about, where is it? Did I lose my train of thought? What wouldn't be appropriate, giving them the elements. What am I talking about? Alright, well, I guess I have to move on. But check out that interview with Ross Draws. He's a pretty cool guy. So for me, I'm creating a setting based on for the world of Chibu. The way I've kind of surmised to tackle this this giving the GM the elements he needs to create his own world, I think I actually came up with a pretty cool solution. So the main baddies, the main bad guys, well, not necessarily bad guys, but the main people you might fight, or one of them aside from other humanoids, is the elementals. And elementals, they're kind of sentient, but they're kind of not. Actually, I gave them a full spectrum, which gives the GM a lot to work with. They basically become more sentient as they hang out with sentient creatures. So if they hang out with like some really smart dude, they're gonna become more smart and be able to talk and stuff. If they hang out with a funny dude, they'll absorb a sense of humor. All right. So in that case, like, I give them the elementals and I say, here, go crazy. You could have your fire elemental look like a jaguar. You could have your water elemental look like a sea serpent. You could have your metal elemental look like a dragon. You can have them look like humanoids. Some of them could be smart. Some of them could be nice. Some of them could be evil. And now they do have, at the lower levels, before they gain any sentience, they have just a base drive, like an animalistic instinct, to attack the element of their opposite and to absorb the element that fuels them. So for instance, wood destroys earth and absorbs water. Fire destroys wood and absorbs it absorbs wood and it destroys metal. All right, so then there's this conflict. They're all fighting each other, and it creates like a weird dynamic because one person's attacking another person and that person's attacking a different person. I don't know, it's kind of a little confusing at this stage, but I'm still working on it. But I think it's going to be interesting because it's going to give the dungeon masters, or the adventure masters as I'm calling them, the tools they need to create all kinds of different creatures. All right, so I think that kind of like gives an idea of like, so world building, for if you're a game designer, you're going to need to create a whole world. You're going to need a lot of options, and you're going to need a sandbox for your for the adventure masters to play in. And you're also going to want to set some overarching plot points, overarching conflicts, or general relationships between different factions or whatever that is going to instigate and inspire conflict. That's super important. Then the next one is world building and the GM. All right, so a game master only has to run a game for a specific group of people. All right, so the specific group of people, that makes it so that you don't have to have as many options as the game designer. You only have to have like maybe a couple options, or you have to know the area that your adventurers are adventuring in. And another great point he makes is that you got your own group to work with. You know what they like. If they like pirates, you know you're going to throw some pirates. If they like magic, you're going to put some more magic. If they don't like magic, you take it out. If they want to fight a dragon, throw a dragon in. So you get to custom cater your campaign based on a very specific group of people that you have personal interactions with, and you can figure this stuff out. So it does make life a little easier. All right. Then the last one is really interesting to me, and this is players in world building. I call it collaborative world building. Basically, he's saying like you can have your characters or your players come up with do world building for their own character. So let's say I make an elven character, and I talked about this in like I want to play like a Plains Indians based elf, like in the Vile Diamond Island video. So I want to play that. So I'm going to create a whole world about these Plains Indians elves and their lives and how their culture is and what they like and what they don't like, who they hunt, who their friends are, who their enemies are, and then I'll let the DM know about that. I'm going to tell him about it, and he's going to say, all right, cool, plop. We're just going to plop some of these elves right here in the world. You know, here's our map. We'll just put them right there. Why not? And then at one point in the adventure, maybe you're going to go back to those lands, and it's funny because the player will actually know the lands better than the DM, or maybe not know them better, but know them really well, really intimately, because they created them. So if they go there and they're going to meet, he makes a specific example about the aunt who is the queen. So I'll go with that. So let's say I'm going to go meet. I said my aunt is the queen of the tribe or whatever, and I'm gonna go meet her. But now she's acting strange. I told the GM she's very kind and benevolent queen. All right. But now I get there and the queen is mean and evil. I'm like, wait, that's not the queen I remember. So already as a player, I have knowledge that makes it so that I'm like, oh wait, and she's my aunt, and I made this character, like I want to save it because I have a personal connection. I want to be involved because it's like, you know, I'm intimate with that setting. All right. And it's still really bugging me what I was gonna say about Ross draws. So I'm maybe put that in the comments below or in the description if I remember at some point. But yeah, I think that's it for this chapter. Oh, I got something underlined here. I guess I'll just read it. This is in the when the PCs arrive, the elf character senses something amiss. Okay, this is what I told you. She knows this place and these people. Remember, so now the player's knowledge of the realm becomes a hook for an adventure. All right, and then they end off. This is a nice little line right down here. We'll just end off with that. is what you want to do is you want to create a place that feels real enough to develop an emotional connection to. Oh man, I've worked in marketing and stuff, and this is one of those things where it's like, it's so true, man. Emotional connections are what human beings are all about. It's crazy. So if you can get someone to feel an emotion when they play your game, that is awesome. And that is kind of what is going to make them want to come back, and what is going to genuinely intrigue them and hook them into their world. They might not think that's what's hooking them, but that's what's hooking them. It's the emotion. And then the surface level stuff is what they'll say, like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. But really, it's cool because you feel like an awesome, like, warrior when you just slay some dragon or whatever, or you know, like, you feel sad when, oh no, that character died, that NPC, my good friend, you know. Those are kind of things that make things memorable, keep you coming back for more, because it's just based in the human experience. So I think that's it. Our next chapter, let's see what we got coming up for the next episode of in this series. We got Inside Out and Outside In by Chris Promise. All right, I have no idea what that's about, but I guess we'll find out soon. Till then, peace, God bless, and stay fantastic, everyone.